Oh, well, hey, welcome to Coffee Tech Talk Tuesday. This is John Ferguson right here. This is John Ferguson. And over there, wherever he's on the screen, is Marty Rowe with us from Kansas City. Welcome. How's it going, Marty?
It's going well, but it's really cold.
Yeah, really? It was 27 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius,
You mean
negative.
minus? You mean minus 27?
Minus 32
Yeah.
degrees Celsius, minus 27. Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. here without wind chill. And we had rolling blackouts. Did you guys get rolling blackouts? Like where people just, lost their power for an hour and they didn't tell anybody. They're just kind of like random lottery.
We got to enjoy that for a little while today. And it happened just before we ground our coffee for our morning coffee break.
Okay, and I was a bad citizen because you know what I did? Because last night I heard on the news they're going to do this today. And they're like, so, don't take a shower, So like the first thing I did this morning was I turned on my Instapot and started boiling a bunch of water because I wanted to use up as much electricity as possible before the rolling blackout happened. But then I realized that I am the problem and I'm not the solution.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, well, maybe I just open up the oven, stick my head in there and stay warm. And I'm like, that's probably not a good idea. But otherwise, yeah, my basement's like 45 degrees right now. It's just chilly. Yeah.
But you have power now, right?
Yeah, we didn't get selected for the blackout.
Okay.
So we're lucky. But how about you?
Yeah, it was down. They said it would last about an hour, and it actually lasted, I think, maybe an hour and a half, somewhere in there. We didn't do too bad. That was at work. I don't know at home. I think everything was up and running when Tootie got home. But
well, there's the weather. There's the weather report from the Coffee Tech Talk Tuesday. That's all we talk about.
We couldn't escape it. It's cold out there.
And what else are we going to talk about? Let's talk about maybe I don't know, Holly Bastin's with us.
Holly
with
Bastin.
a T. Apparently there's a T in her last name, and I didn't know that, and I was spelling it wrong for like about a week. So I apologize because I'm terrible with names, including my
that's
own.
all right. She probably spelled your first name wrong for a while.
Everybody does. They have this stupid silent H in there. But yeah, with roast ratings out of this, Kansas City, how convenient is that? It's awesome. I love it.
Well, it's
do you know Holly?
Kansas City. I know Holly. I know Holly really well. Love Holly.
Yeah. Right.
She is one of the finest people I have ever met, and she knows a lot about coffee.
I've seen her around at some of these competitions, these barista competitions, and apparently a pretty good coach, I hear, taking a couple people quite far in the world.
If proof's in the pudding, if your results are any indication of how good you are, she's she knows
let's talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. So talking about knowing stuff, I always kind of like, you're always like that person that I call like my lifeline basically. And it's, helpful at times. I just kind of like to ramble on about stuff. I'm just like, hey, Marty, look at this. Look what I found. I found this little pin with my dirty fingernails. But what is that? This is your challenge today. This is one of the 3 challenges you have. This is an easy one for you.
Honestly, it's kind of a unique shape, but I'm going to call that the giggler. And that's some people think I'm talking about maybe some young teenage girls because they like to giggle a lot. But no, I don't know what the actual translation is, but it's a restrictor in the hydraulic flow before the water gets to your puck.
So everything that's coming out of the espresso machine through that group head on this machine specifically is passing through that little pinhole, that water. That's how much
exactly.
And if you're getting how much flow, like I guess 450 grams of water should be flowed through that pinhole in about 30 seconds is an average for this PB Linea, I guess.
For that size. Now there's different size gigglers. There's machines out there that don't have any. They just rely on the restriction of the design of the machine.
And so like what happens here if one of them gets clogged? And like, I guess that,
Well, it's pretty obvious.
The call
if everything that goes to your into your puck goes through one of those. If it's clogged, it's not going to get to your coffee. So, yeah, it clogs up and you won't.
Do you get calls like this a lot? Like where you're like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
they're not flowing the same rate, or like, the water's kind of slow out the left or the right. And
yeah, and I give a hats off to the shops that actually are paying close enough attention that they know there's a different flow rate between the groups.
Right.
So I really appreciate that they actually notice that. But a lot of them just wait until it completely clogs. But they do clog up. There's minerals in water, and you got to combat that. And sometimes even in the best case scenarios, they still can pick up, because I'll tell you how small that is. It's kind of hard to tell in that picture just how small. But if you take a straight pin, like you buy a new shirt and they've got those pins in it that you forget to get,
or just like a needle, right? Yeah.
Well, the straight pin will not go through one of those. A straight pin is bigger than that.
And there's like a little ruby or something, like a little red kind of center thing to that. Is that like a different material? Or
that is, they call those ruby red, and it's a glass material that is theoretically supposed to not attract or it's slick. It's minerals don't want to stick to it.
Right. Well, yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that because that's one thing where your flow rate's going to be off. But like, what happens if you have like I came across this a week ago where you have different basket sizes. One was a 20 gram, one was like a 17 gram, but they were throwing in the same amount of coffee.
Yeah.
How would that mimic a flow rate issue? And then just be like, oh, hey, it's your basket size. It's not your flow restrictors, or it's both.
It can. Anytime you're evaluating flow rates and consistencies between shots, you've got to go through and match up all your variables. So that's a great example. The depth of the bed of your basket. If you don't have the same baskets, they're not going to flow the same. A lot of people don't understand this either. I didn't for a long time. The position of your portafilter. If you've got enough wear or a different size gasket, if you mismatch your gaskets between groups, and your portafilters don't line up, just a few degrees difference on the portafilter will add or subtract time, because you're with you're actually raising the top level of that puck to the screen, giving it less room to expand. And the further you go, you're going to be adding seconds to your shots.
Well, hey, I got another one for you. And then, so this is just there was a shot glass full of water, and it was in underneath the steam wand at night. And so basically it was the steam wands were soaking in this water.
Okay.
Is this a good practice, or is this not a good practice? And I said it was possibly not a good practice because there was some vacuum stuff going on, the suction thing. Was I giving bad advice or good advice?
Well,
or what kind of,
unless there's something that goes wrong with the machine, there's not going to be any vacuum happen. Can it happen when something goes wrong with the machine? Absolutely. You can, an average 2 group could suck up a half a gallon of milk if you keep feeding it. If it has been allowed to cool down, and the anti-siphon valve that should let air in that when it cools down and the steam shrinks down and condenses, there is a vacuum situation there. But if you've got the valve closed and there's no leak there, it stays hot. It's hot in the morning when you get there. I know there's a lot of discussion and controversy on whether to soak the steam wand tips or not. I've yet to have anyone tell me why it's bad. I've had a lot of people tell me that's the worst thing you could ever do. But, and I throw that out to society.
I just told you why it was bad. It's just not true. Well, I just like, I gave you a false bad reason. I'm just like, because it sucks milk up into the boiler. And you're like, well, John, that's not true. But if that's the reason.
Well, here's the deal. The main thing that you can do for your steam wands is to purge immediately after you steam, not after you've made the drink, after you've steamed that drink and before you finish the drink.
Oh, isn't that like one of those things that you have to do during competition? Like they throw you out the building if you don't do it?
No, but it reflects on your score. So when you sit down and you go, why did I not get a good score in that area?
And
they definitely
and all
will
of
tell you that.
And all of these scores kind of like total up to a quality performance, and like and the end goal there is to find like a great a great cup of coffee and a great presentation to get people to understand things. Right?
Well, an awful lot of that scoring is based on best practices, efficiencies, effectiveness, things that help you as a barista be consistent.
Let's talk about things that help you be consistent with the barista. Oh, but I forgot to tell you that Holly's in the waiting room, and we should probably say hi.
Let's wave at Holly.
Yeah, let's wave at Holly. Hi, Holly, in the waiting room. I hope you enjoy all of the bottled water that we have brought for you. And I'm sorry that we didn't bring anything else. I have some Tylenol, and I also have some turkey tail immune support gluten-free dietary supplements if you'd like one. Supposedly they're supposed to be good for your brain, but apparently, I don't know if it's working. But
I'm not going there.
Yeah, you don't have to. No one is. So, hey, let's talk about things to help you more consistency. I want to ask Holly about this one, actually. Can we bring Holly in? Because I want to talk to you about this.
Let's
Holly,
get her in here.
Hey, Holly.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hello.
It's good. I'm keeping warm.
Yeah. Well, so hey, we're just gonna jump right in, and can you tell me what this is, and is this helps you be more consistent with your pressure tamp, right? And
good clicker, clicker tamp.
Yeah. So, yes or no? Is it worth it or not worth it?
I mean, in the right application, it depends. Like if it's a place that has high turnover and doesn't want to. I don't know. There's shops that want to like really invest in their training program, and then ones that just want to churn out coffee. So for those churning out coffees, I do think that is an excellent tool choice.
What about this? What about this one?
Is that a reg?
Well, it's pretty heavy.
It's got a.
It's heavy metal, and it's purple, and it's got something on it.
It's got a tree on the top of it.
Do you guys know this one? Have you seen this one before?
I have. Well, I have.
You got. Oh yeah.
But mine says my name on it.
Yeah, well, I'm not that important. I just got a tree on mine.
It probably came in the same shipment, though. I bet.
That's right. A shout out to that world, and then
shout out to PTs.
I've got one last one, Marty. Check it out. I found it.
You're gonna have to hold that up close. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And this is what I did earlier. I was like, hey, you guys know this part? And I was just going to take it apart and show you like, wait, what is this? But it's actually just like it's taken apart.
Okay.
Because I'm glad you didn't do that, because I never would have got that.
Yeah, nor should you, because that would be completely unfair, because it makes no sense. But like we were talking about this last week, and the reason why kind of Holly's on the show this week is because we were kind of like, oh, what's the point of this? And you got out this really cool like hairbrush round thing.
My Duomo with the spikes that actually physically distribute evenly the puck and fluffs it up and.
Do you have your tool? Is it like do you have a? We're gonna show off all of our barista tools today. Good, Holly, you're up next if you got anything. But I was
okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like this, and it's got the handle on it that you spin. But the magic, if you can see that, is in these spikes. So this nicely rests on your portafilter, drops down, and what's really cool is it spins pretty easy, and it still spins pretty close to that even with the coffee. So it fluffs it up, and it does a real good job. We have, I mentioned this last week that we've put coffee in, off to one side, put salt, a big pile of salt.
Right.
Put this on there, spin it. Now we're not going to pull shots with it, but it shows how well that distributes that. As technicians, we really do use this to judge the effectiveness or if your grinder is launching large particles away from the small particles as it dispenses. And that makes a difference.
Hey, Holly, we talked about the tool I was talking about that was similar to Marty's, right? Remember what I was talking about that? Like one of my friends who's kind of like really into marijuana smoking, which I am not because I say it like that. He was like, he said, yeah, oh, you mean like that thing that they use for weed to break it up? And they're like, there's like this little component thing. You put the cap on the bottom and it like crushes it up and like it makes it into like a nice fine shake thing. I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know, but maybe we could adopt some of those tools from the weed industry for the coffee industry, and then we could have like a swap, like a tool swap thing. Except for like, I don't think I want to smoke coffee. I don't know. Have you ever smoked coffee? That sounds like a terrible idea.
I've been near several roaster fires. If you've ever been near a roaster fire, you will say that you have smoked coffee.
Actually, now that you think about it, I have smoked a lot of coffee on accident. Just all that smoke. But anyway, Holly, how are you?
I'm good.
What do you got? What's that?
This is the twister. We talked about it in the comments last week.
Oh.
So these fit around the ears of the basket, the wings.
So it locks in. Is that right?
Yeah. So you put that on, and the impeller here goes to the bottom of the basket. You put your coffee in it, and then twist, and it actually will distribute. And it's like the Swift grinder, as Marty would say.
So, yeah, if you're familiar with the Swift grinder, as you turn it, it's going to compact it and bring that propeller up to the top for your final polish.
Oh, because I thought that this was a part of the function of the Swift grinder, right?
Yeah.
Where it would like come down and like kind of like compact it.
Holly's that looks like a Swift grinder blade right there that Holly's got.
That is so cool.
Have you seen one of these?
No, what is that? What is that?
It is.
It's got cool tools.
Yeah, this is one I use a lot in basic training because I really work hard on distribution and hand distribution with people so that they understand if they don't have a tool. So what this does is this little flange here catches the rim of the basket and doesn't allow you to be unlevel. So see it like I can't even.
Oh, it's training wheels.
Yes, you can't your tamp. So what I have them do is they distribute by hand. They tamp with that for the first round of training. And then we feel the puck afterwards to see where their distribution was off so they can isolate that variable first. And then we get into actually tamping, which for that, I have a mirror so that they can see what they're doing while they're tamping. So
you've trained a couple folks before in the past, right? Like for like barista competitions.
Yeah.
To the general audience that may or may not know about that.
That weird world, the Bastin show of baristas.
So how far has that taken you? Have you gone around the world, or have you worked with some folks like I think there's a guy, what's his name, Pete Licata? I'm just being kind of like facetious, but so yeah. You kind of coach with Pete Licata, I guess.
Pete, and I coached everyone who came up through PTs like Robin Seitz and anybody who was using our coffee actually. And then after Pete won, we both worked with Hide, who won the next year. And we also worked with Craig Simon, who I think he was 4th in that competition, world competition. But yeah, it's taken me to Australia, Europe a little bit. Before all this, I thought all I wanted to do was go to Europe, but it's ended up taking me to Asia a lot more, which actually, like China is one of my favorite places to visit.
I've never been. I want to go so bad. I want to go to Japan, or I want to go to Korea. I hear that there's a pretty good coffee culture there too. So
it's nuts.
So how long have you been in coffee then? Like how long has it been?
99 is when I started, so I'm at like I'm up there, man.
You're past your 20-year anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, hey, so you're now involved with this with roast ratings is a thing you're doing, and I saw this on your website. I Star Coffee. Yeah. And so this is like a picture from the website. What is this? A
This
picture of?
one is, we just started making these tasting boxes, and this one is the instant tasting box. So those are all instant coffees from, we did a rating in November of instant coffees only. It was pretty wild. But
you're like Sanka or
we
like
did actually buy some Nescafe, or yeah, like the major brands like Folgers, because instants come a long way, but whenever you're just tasting instant, it's not the same as brew. Like, there's not the clarity. There's a lot of compression. So in order to give ourselves a frame of reference, we went ahead and got like Folgers instant and some of the basic, even some Via, so that we understood like the context of where specialty was at with instant, which is, it's not a bad spot. We're doing really good with it.
Like instant coffee, like the last time I've read about it was like it's a freeze drying process or something, like where they brew coffee and then it's like cold flash frozen freeze dried. Do you guys, or do you, how does that work? How is instant, like on in a couple sentences, how do they make instant coffee?
As far as I understand it, they brew up a bunch of it, sometimes in a concentrated form, and then they'll cool it down, freeze dry it, and then use that powder to dose out into these little guys. And there's a few different methods out there. And there's a few different people that process, like most of the coffees that we ended up tasting were from Swift Cup, which is one of the people that you can send your coffee to, and they'll do all that for you.
Oh, cool.
But there's some newer players. We also just got some samples from a company called Voila, and they do a lot of the European instant coffees. It looked like we're with them. But also down in Tulsa, Tyler Duncan is doing Coracle.
Oh.
Rio.
Oh, that's cool.
It is a wild looking. It's okay. So.
Oh yeah.
This whole thing is dissolvable. Like, you could throw the whole packet in there. And
is that like a paper or something, or like a corn plastic or something, or
yeah,
like a food grade? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's
so what
process.
Well, I got a question then. So what's the shelf life of instant coffee? Because it's such a different form of product. I mean, would it last longer? Have you done a taste test of freshly instantized, how do you call it, freshly made instant coffee versus like 6 month old or a year old instant coffee on the shelf? I'd be curious. Yeah, I don't know.
I think a lot of the stuff we got was pretty fresh, except for the stuff I bought at the grocery store. But I do think we were blessed to taste with Umeko Motoyoshi, who helped Sudden Coffee do their process. So they were able to, like, while we were tasting, if there was a flavor in there that we couldn't identify, they were usually pretty able to like pinpoint what part of the process that flavor came from. And sometimes it was like maybe the coffee sat in the holding tanks for too long before process it. So I think, just like anything with coffee, the more steps you're adding, the more like margin for error there starts to be as far as like getting that flavor dialed in. So
yeah, flavor, baking spices, molasses. You have a chart here of brew descriptors that so I guess we kind of like just touched really quick on these like these boxes of coffee that you are sending out, right?
And then they're not going to be instant. Instant just happened to be the easy one to do.
Oh, I thought you just did nothing but instant coffee. I was like, oh, that's such a niche market.
I think what little bit I know of what Holly does is tiny little bit of instant.
Just a little bit of everything, I guess.
You just wanted to try it. Right. So that picture just happened to be the instant box. But this one is from our latest rating, which was African coffees.
Okay.
This is the smaller tasting box, and it has 50 grams of each coffee, and there are 3 of the 5-star coffees from that rating. And we're going to do this every month. Like, it'll be from the rating we're doing.
Okay.
Like right now we're doing pre-orders for the rating that we're tasting tomorrow and Friday, actually.
So is this a new venture, or have you been doing it for a while, or in a different form, or?
Roast ratings we've been doing since 2015, actually.
Okay.
It started with Pete and I, and then Brian Miller is my partner now because Pete, as some know, moved to Melbourne, Australia, so he's not here for the day to day.
Right.
But this part of the process is new. Like we launched the box in December, actually. So, and it's our first time really trying to monetize roast ratings. We've been doing.
So Holly,
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to try it.
Could you share with us your core business model? What roast ratings, what it really does? I mean, I know that you don't just evaluate instant coffees, and I know you don't just send out these great little tasting things. There's a method to your madness. There's a core to what you guys stand for and what you're doing and what you try to add to the industry. So
and also before you for the audience out there, there's a what you're doing with roast ratings. It's kind of a, I mean, prior to that, there's been a couple sites where you can there are people that are reviewing coffees they're kind of tasting it and kind of giving some feedback, and it's been sort of a very I don't, there aren't a lot of people doing it, right? So and you're kind of doing the same thing but different, right? How what are you, like what Marty said, I just wanted to bring it out there that there's not a lot of people doing this. What's going on here?
We present, there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of ways we're doing this very differently. Like with the star ratings breakdown here, first of all, we're not on a 100-point scale. We're on a 50-point scale, which I think helps break us away a little bit from that.
I think it kind of like manages your expectations, right? Like you can never be perfect, so you might as well just go for 50.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
We actually have had a perfect score. Like when Pete and I started this, we wanted to make sure that a 100 or a 50 could be possible, but also a 0 could be possible.
Right. Yeah.
The other problem that we had in the industry was that all the scoring systems have a false bottom. You know, they all start, like the scales on a lot of them start at 6, so you can't go below that. So ours actually allows you to rate all coffees, whether they're grocery store, anything, instant, you know, it just gives you a lot more room to actually taste different coffees.
I mean, who, like on like Q grading or on the SCA cupping form, I mean, you know, how often do you actually give a 9.75 or like a 5.5? Is 5 even on that form? It's been a while.
It's been a while. Anyway,
so like everybody's scoring like a 7, like, or an 8 or somewhere around there. They don't want to get too adventurous or too penalized.
Safe, a safe score. We'll give a 5. Like part of our approach also is we aren't looking to criticize as much as we try to approach it first as how can we reward this coffee? Like where can we give it high marks? And we're bummed whenever we can't.
Would this be an unfair question I'm going to ask? But I'm going to ask it anyway because I always do this. I'm like calibration of scales, like with the Agtron and the Javalytics and the roast color. We have roast, you know, like and also coffee flavors. So like let's say you've got an 84 SCA point coffee, 84 points or 84 Q grade, 84 cup. How does that translate to this chart? Does it translate, or is that an unfair analysis or an unfair comparison? Is it a 2-star?
Well, no. And that's the thing, when we invite people to taste with us that are in specialty, they're very quick to use the bottom end of the scale. And we're like, no, let's taste some stuff from the grocery store real quick to get you kind of
calibrated.
I would say an 84. I've never done a direct comparison, but my guess would probably end up around 3.5, maybe.
Okay, so you've got some room.
You've got space, man.
You got a lot of room. And also that brings us to the next slide here of this. And I threw this in for you. I thought you might like it. There it is, scoring. I had to put that little animation in there. Let's see if I can, a little spin on that. So this is a form that you use for cupping this coffee. why is it, you know what? I think we have a video. Can we show the video of your team cupping this coffee? Cupping, we're gonna do that. And now we might not be able to see it on the presentation, but our audience can see it right now, and it's playing live on YouTube. But we're 5 seconds behind. So right now, what we're doing is we're watching everybody kind of like cup very, very quickly. Like you have a very like a certain amount of time that you have to do this, and apparently it's kind of it's a marathon. And it looks like we have
They've drank a lot of coffee.
Who else is in the video here, Holly?
Well, that is Brian at the end of the table there.
Okay,
he and I met at PT's, so
okay.
getting coffee, and that is also Kate Blackman.
Oh, of course.
Kate Blackman.
Hi, Kate. That looks like you're working hard. I like the waters, the bottles of water. It's good.
Yes, we drink a lot of water, and those orange cups are our spit cups. We encourage the use of spit cups.
Okay. And it looks like there's a coffee pot on the table.
There is.
Is it something like this one?
It is exactly like that one.
So we're not. Are you tasting coffee or are you cupping coffee, and is there a difference between the two? And like a lot of people talk about that, like and I think Dietrich has a question. Oh, he's gonna hold that thought. So we're back to cupping versus tasting. Let's explain to the audience why that matters. Like,
we do not cup. We in the beginning we did. We actually used the score sheet twice. We'd cup the coffee and then we would brew the coffee and score it. And that was interesting. What we learned is we could definitely tell the people that were making their roast decisions on the cupping table only, and the ones that were actually brewing it the way consumers were going to drink it. Because a lot of times the ones that would perform beautifully in the cupping room would not perform in brew, and vice versa. So we do brewing because this is coffee for the people. We are trying to brew coffee more like consumers. A lot of what motivated us to get into this was to connect better with consumers. At the time that we started this, specialty was kind of more alienating the consumers and not really taking into account what it is they were looking for. So.
Right, and so choosing a Bonavita, or this coffee brewer, I heard it's pretty good, but it's basically what you're going to look at. It's like a automated pour over. What's that? Like what kind of filters in there? Just like a flat bottom or a cone, or
it's a flat bottom Melita.
So pretty filter. Standard and brews pretty well. And do you have recommended brew ratios for the people?
We actually do a ratio of 18-1 for the ratings. We were trying to split the difference. Specialty tends towards around 1-16, 1-15, and consumers, by and large, are at a much more stretched out ratio. Most
like 1-40. I've seen 1-50. Marty, have you seen 1-50 before?
No, I think I've drank 1-50.
Boy, this is like inside joke, like really geeky stuff. Everybody's like, why are they laughing at 1-50? What's it? Anyway, yeah, so 1-20 is a pretty standard. Also, like, it's a little bit of a thinner cup, and I think we're probably used to drinking 1-15 or something crazy like that. So 1-18 seems to be like a pretty good balance, right?
Yeah, we were just trying to meet in the middle, and we will actually adjust it depending on the roast profile. Like if it's a much darker roast, because we do sometimes get some darker roasts, we'll go up to a 21-1 ratio for that because it is more soluble, so we can get a little more out of it more easily.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dietrich, what you got?
Yeah. Well, look, can we jump back to that previous slide and kind of have Holly walk us through, her grading system there?
Yeah. This is the official scoring sheet from Roast Ratings, full total out of 50. And there it is. The cup. It's not an actual coffee cup or a cupping cup. It's a coffee cup.
Yes.
With brewed coffee in it. And I think on your website, oh, that's cute. I like that. Good color. Like that. Nice shape. On your website, it looked like it kind of actually broke this down with the palate and then flavor balance and drinkability. You have a lot of great information on your website too. So I'd suggest anybody out there, if you want to learn more after we kind of talk about it, to check out the website. But what does palate mean?
Well, when you spell palate this way, it's referring to your mouth.
Okay.
Or your senses in general.
Okay, great. Okay.
Aroma, we actually score aroma, which to my knowledge, I don't think any of the cupping forms, like you make notes on your aroma, but you don't actually score it out. But it is like your introduction to the experience as a consumer. Does it make you want to drink more? Or are you like, I don't know? Or sometimes you just don't get much at all. So yeah,
Right.
we have that. We have body and aftertaste in the palate section. So more just like it's the things we tend to focus on first anyway, because the coffee is still hot, so it's harder to get those flavors right out of the gate.
Okay.
But
And
then,
so that's a total section. So you're kind of like focusing on those three first, where maybe it would be like a 7 out of 10 or 9 out of 10.
yeah, and we do half points too, just so we have a little more range in there. There's a lot of 4s and 4.5s out there, I would say, and on the 5-point scale. But
And so yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, and then the flavor balance. How does that work?
Do you notice something different about the acidity there?
It just keeps on going up and then it goes down, but it goes up and then down.
Yes. And that is for those coffees that are a little punchy on the acidity.
Oh, so
too far.
Where does it get too far? Is it kind of go back down to a 3 when it's like a really high acidity, but it's not necessarily pleasing? Like it's an overly like sharp acidity or
when it's out of balance with the other aspects, like it's taking over, and that's all you're really getting is when we go over there. It's mostly about intensity.
So. That's clever.
That was one of the things in the beginning too that we wanted to see, because we were seeing a lot of underdevelopment in roast at that time. I think that's improved a lot. Just not being willing to put enough roast on there to get that caramelization. And sweetness really, I would say for 5-star coffees, sweetness really has to kind of be in the center for it to carry into that range. But yeah, so between these three, well, in the bottom one, complexity bitterness, it used to just be bitterness. We had someone ask if they could use the score sheet in Korea and they wanted to add complexity. So we were like, well, it makes sense to have that somewhere because we take our notes on this little sheet. But
and here the arrow goes the opposite direction. How does that work? So like if it's coffee's bitter, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, so, intensity wise. And it doesn't mean there won't be any bitterness, but a pleasing, like balanced bitterness is what we're looking for. Like we'll have baking spices, or sometimes there's a pleasing like earthiness to things, but it has to be kind of in balance with those sweetness components and the acidity too.
Hey Marty, have you done this? The official scoring sheet?
I have. What I haven't done is sat through any of Holly's actual procedures or tastings. But yeah, has shared this with us. I love this evaluation sheet. It's like going to where the consumer is. You're going where they're at with your approach on it. The biggest change for me, other than it's just sheer simplicity, was the explanation of the acidity. That it does score down. More acidity is not necessarily better. Once you get out of balance there.
I think, was it on the SCA form or where they have the intensity and then also the quality of the acidity, and this is kind of combining that together.
Little,
right. The little, like, it's like, oh, it's really intense, but it's not good, right? Like, because everybody was like, at one point, it was like, there has to be a lot of acidity in order for it to score well, and I just think that's like not necessary in my world. I mean, I like some acidity. You know, a little bit of lemon on a taco is always good or something, but like it doesn't have to taste like a lime. Like it doesn't have to taste like a lemon. Just gives it some pop.
I want to add one more thing. Probably for me, the biggest value, even though it's not the biggest score on here, is the drinkability. And we've all sat around cupping tables and doing the SCA standard cupping procedures and evaluating coffees. And you will run across a cup of coffee or a coffee offering that doesn't necessarily score real high on that chart, but you like the coffee. It's just a fun drinkability is high. It's just a fun little coffee, and this gives a real good opportunity to reward. There you go. Thank you for putting that in my ear. That word reward. Yeah, reward that coffee for, even though it may not be the best coffee you've had, but you definitely would want to drink it again. So that,
Holly,
I like that.
How many have you scored? How many coffees have you scored?
Oh goodness.
Do you have like a little notch on the wall? Like there's another one down.
No. It's gotta be in the hundreds, like 400 maybe.
And so for the last couple of years, then you've been, a lot of people have been sending you, or you've been having a call out for people to send you samples. They send you samples, and then you rate them, and then it's kind of a good business practice for someone like who's a new roaster who wants to kind of become more recognized or appreciated or just recognized in a sense for what they're doing. Send you a sample. You run it through the scoring system, and then are you providing them feedback? Is this like you said, not a lot of things have been monetized, but I know other review sites have it monetized. What's your approach with that relationship with, how do you find new coffees and what do you do with them, with those companies?
Well, what we do is after we rate it, we have to agree on all the scores, by the way. And we use that list of words to give it 3 words to describe the coffee. They're pretty simple words. They're mom approved. We actually brought our moms in and had them taste with us, and we tried to make sure not only like would our moms get it, but like thinking in terms globally, like language and accessibility.
Not like what Marty would call it, like it has like a good, what'd you call it, cylinder blocks or something, or?
I mean, that's relatable in its own way.
No, we don't have
with a good roof or something, or with like, what was that just like last?
My favorite one is it starts out like an orchestra tuning and finishes like a drum set being thrown down a flight of stairs. I don't see any of that.
Yeah, so no drum sets and crazy talk here. This is all just mom approved, like light, juicy, clean, things that everybody can relate with. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the. And we're always
no tannins. No tannins. I mean, it's very approachable. You don't even use the word tannin.
Well, tannic.
Tannic in there. Oh,
tannin. Oh, tannic. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Well, not tannin, but tannic. So you're right. Okay. So how do people send you coffees, or do they just email you?
We have a submission link on the site. Right now,
what's your website?
Roastratings.com.
Excellent. Okay.
And just look for on the bar all the way to the right. There's coffee submissions, but.
And I clicked, I have nothing to submit, but I was looking at, like, there was something in March and April for different types of submissions. What's up next in March?
March is going to be New York, state, city, metro. So we're going to be recruiting roasters from New York for that one.
What if I bought my coffee through an importer that was based in New York?
Not the same.
So it has to be roasted in New York.
Roasted in New York or New Jersey, part of the New York City Metro.
What if I was driving through New York in my van and I roasted it while I was on the interstate driving through New York? Would that count?
It was roasted in New York.
All right. Well, for all you people out there, if you have a van and you have a roaster in it and you're driving through New York, you can submit your coffee.
Or you can just wait till April for the open call.
Oh, okay. So that's June and April, just open call. So people just call you, and you just be like, yeah, the first 20, 50. How many submissions are you accepting?
We try to stick to 24, and the way it works is the first coffee in any rating is free for the roaster. If they want to submit more than one coffee, then it's $50 per coffee. Or if they want to submit coffees outside of the rating, then it's $50.
Could I submit my competitor's coffee to see what they get? So I'm just like, hey, Holly, this roaster's giving me some trouble because apparently people seem to like their coffee, but I think it sucks. Can I give it to you and get an honest feedback and then compare my coffee and just tell me that mine's better?
We wouldn't just tell you yours is better.
Could I give you an extra $25 for that?
Right. They have to approve. The thing is the roaster has to approve for it to be public knowledge. So
I can approve my competitor if they get a bad score. I can put it out there. Right. Anyway,
we've
DJ.
digressed.
No,
hey,
this is good.
Holly, if you can chat with us. I mean, I think there's some people who are listening who may have never been through a cupping before, who may have never, like sat down and tried coffees in this way. Why would your average consumer, what would your advice be, at least to them, as to why they should be getting involved in something like this, especially if they're a fan of coffee?
I think it really opens up the world to other kinds of coffee that are out there. I think one of the things that we value differently than like cupping forms do is that acidity factor, which I think is kind of off-putting to a lot of consumers if they're not as familiar with it. And since we focus on sweetness, I think that it will help a consumer get to where they can find more easily some sweet, delicious coffees, as well as just where their favorites are and what else is going on out there. Because we get coffees from everywhere. We even get coffees internationally sometimes. So
And let's say somebody ends up trying one of those coffees and they love it. What do they do next? Do they go through you guys to order it? Do you tell them to go through the website in which the roaster roasted from, or I mean, what's the process on that?
I mean, we direct them to the roaster, but we also, on every rating on the site, there is a buy this coffee button, and that will actually take you to their web shop directly so that you can find the coffee. Yeah.
That's cool.
Try to keep it simple. It's really complicated on the back end sometimes, but on the front end, we try to keep it simple.
Marty, do you have any other further observations about like where Holly's where are you, Holly? Where are you based out of? I mean, I don't. We were talking Kansas City, but like where do you do your day to day?
I am in the Workbench Coffee Lab space. They happen to have a lot of extra offices in the middle of the building, and I've got a couple here. So
you're in the same building that Marty's in right now. So you guys do know each other. I was like, tell you, like last week
down the hall.
Yeah, last week I was saying like, like Holly should have sat up like behind your clover, facing the other direction. So
yeah, that would work.
I don't know. That's cool.
We really like having. We get the benefit when they have a 4.5, 5-star coffees. They come out and brag about it, and I'm more than happy to give a taste to that.
Give your own little coffee analysis on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I only have one more slide, Holly, and it's basically just to kind of talk about your website. That's a terrible photo. Now that I think about it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's really pixelated. What is that coffee? Yeah, what are these little brown flakes when I grind my coffee? I don't know. It's one of these. It's an article that was on your blog, and I thought it was kind of fun. Like, if anybody wants to check out the blog, there's a lot of cool, little interesting, little articles about things like this. And if you don't know what this is, you could either anybody can say what it is right now, like it's chaff, or you just go read the article, and then maybe it goes a little bit more into detail. So, do you have any other favorite blogs, or Marty, do you want to take over the questionnaire?
No, well, I probably should do my obligatory, um, uh, let's say this last year with COVID, and the challenges we've all met, and you guys still, I see roast ratings evolving in what your offerings and what you want to do and the focus and stuff. What's been maybe a biggest challenge for you, this last year?
Goodness, me personally,
Yeah, and then,
Roast
sure, and sky's the limit. It could be coffee, not coffee,
I would say for me personally with coffee, being a trainer, like that is not happening in person right now. So that is a pretty difficult one, and that was the main way that I've been making income. So it's been interesting trying to pivot on that. But I'd say like that's part of where this energy got thrown into roast ratings. It kind of roast ratings has always kind of been on the back burner for me or on the side burner, and this year it really got moved to the front burner. And like I think
Sure.
COVID's actually what we discovered tasting with this method is that it's pretty COVID friendly because like we're not sharing cups. We all have our own mugs.
Absolutely.
Space ourselves out a bit, you know,
and
yeah.
I just
no, that's
really
great.
like the tasting approach of how you're doing it, because it really is honest, and it's actually how you're going to be drinking the coffee. And not only that, like you said, it's super safe. It's always been kind of really interesting to me, like when COVID just first hit, slurping out of the same cup, is it a problem? And I'm like, are you like, how is that a question? Of course it is. It's like dipping your finger in a peanut butter jar and licking your finger, and it's like, no, we're all good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I think it's a great pivot too, and I can't wait to try some of those subscription boxes. That would be, I can't wait for you to send one to me.
We're hoping.
Yeah.
You're hoping what?
Roasters want to like. It's a really hard time to do fun stuff with your staff, and we think this is a way that you could. It's a small investment to have a little tasting party for everybody and get outside of your own box. You know, like I think that's one of the biggest things having roasters that we see as a benefit is like we have this much broader understanding of what's going on out there because of all these ratings that we do.
So like if you would send this out to a roaster or to a cafe and want to do a tasting experience like that, what would you recommend that they use for brewing if they don't have a Bonavita? I mean, like not everybody's going to have like that coffee pot. Would you say Chemex, or would you say like French press, or what method is universally? I don't know.
My favorite for pour overs is Melita. I think that's from working up front at About the Coffee because it is the most user friendly. As far as like the water flow rate through it is pretty consistent time after time, and the filters are readily available.
Like the number 4, number 2, Melita cone pour over, cheap and simple.
Any grocery store, any drugstore, they're widely available.
Do you like my favorite OXO brewer with the water reservoir on top, or do you like more of the controlled aspect of the pour?
Personally, I make a Chemex every day, so I like some control. I like the ritual more than anything.
What if I put a water reservoir above a Chemex? Would that upset you?
You
have it slowly drip.
I mean, the way that we present it in the box right now, because we're still troubleshooting this, is, you brew this the way you would brew it normally, if that's what you want to do. And then here's what we did. Just if you want to follow what we did, here's what that is.
So probably not pulling shots with it.
I mean, if that's what you do.
That's what you do. All right.
And
Dietrich,
to
you got
clarify real quick, Holly, too, that coffee's coming just whole bean for people, correct?
Right now, yeah. We haven't had anybody request it ground yet, and if they do, we'll totally do it.
If someone requested it hand ground, would you do that?
And then Holly as well. I think you mentioned before, but I did want to like just bring it up again. You're sending out 50 grams in each one of those samples, so it can be a tasting experience for multiple people in a sitting, obviously.
Yeah, because we share a liter of coffee between 3 of us, and there's always like, unless it's like really confusing or really delicious, there's usually at least half a pot left for us to go around and share with everybody, because you don't need to drink all of it, you know.
And how much do you put usually in a Chemex anyway? Around that, like 60, depending on how much water you put in it, obviously, how big the Chemex is. But yeah.
Well, my Chemex methods are wild. I do 40 grams in, and I do like a 1 to 10 ratio, and then I extend it to taste with the
I thought you were gonna
the
do
bypass.
I thought you were gonna do the inverted the inverted Chemex method.
where it all spills on the counter.
I don't know. I just made that one up. Bad
I
idea.
have to give credit to Holly for really force feeding me that bypass to taste. She's the one that a pretty rich ratio, and then
yeah, I think
bypass to taste.
it makes a lot of sense to err on the side of strength rather than err on the side of weakness.
Oh, sure.
Because you can always weaken it down, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's more
and
than it's more than
yeah,
that. It's more than
right.
just weakening it down. It opens the coffee up. It does more to it than that.
Yeah.
You're right.
I do have a
Limits.
follow-up question.
Yeah.
So you shared with us challenges, and I think we all agree with you, and feel your pain in a lot of those areas. All right, now setting back, you've been in the coffee industry since '99, give or take a little bit. There's been a lot of opportunities for some really cool stuff to happen. So, is there a shining moment or a fond memory that you'd share with us, on that journey?
Well, I mean, going to the World Championship in general was amazing, which I've gotten to do a lot of times. I'm very grateful for that at this point. But going the very first time and recognizing that, like, Pete and I were the Americans, like we were it, back there.
Is that like Rocky 3 or no? Never mind.
just kind of the weight of that hit me a lot while I was there. That like we were representing that country, and just getting exposed to all these different folks with different ideas of what coffee is, and I don't know, all the traveling.
Where was that? Where did that take place?
Melbourne. Well, the first one I went to was in Bogota. So, and it was,
oh yeah,
it was pretty cool. And Melbourne was when Pete won. So
what year was that?
That was 2013.
2013.
Which was a pretty wild, because their coffee culture is crazy over there. So after he had won, we spent another week there to bum around because we'd never been to Australia. And I wanted to go shopping, and Pete was nice enough to go with me and do his thing. And I was in a shop and told the girl asked why I was there, and I told her that I was there for the World Barista Championship, and she was like, "Oh yeah, some American guy won that, right?" I was like, what? He's outside.
I noticed I went to Melbourne once, and I just noticed like there's a La Marzocco on every corner or something like that. It's like ridiculous how many espresso machines there are, but how many La Marzoccos there are, and also like spring rolls. I don't know, like Vietnamese spring rolls. I just love the spring rolls and the La Marzoccos.
No, the Asian fusion cuisine in Australia is off the charts.
Well, hey, I think we're gonna call this like almost a wrap. Is there anything else we want to depart with, Dietrich or Marty? Last minute questions for the famous Holly Bastin.
Yes, thank you, Holly. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you've done in the last 20 years to highlight and to elevate the entire specialty coffee culture and community around the globe. I mean, you did. So, you're an essential aspect to that. And thank you so much. And,
well, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, if you just watch this whole episode again and just kind of like fast forward through my stuff and, get yourself some subscription.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. All right. Go to the, so again, my name is John Ferguson with Coffee Tech Talk Tuesday. Feel free to email me at coffeetechcentral@gmail.com. Marty, how do we get in touch with you?
with workbenchcoffeelabs.com, And again, feel free to reach out, just like John. But if you're looking for me, don't reach out for John.
Please don't.
Please. Um, we'll, we'll help you out in whatever fashion we can.
And Holly, how do we get in touch with you? And what's the best way to get some coffee from you?
Roastratings.com is where you can get the coffee. And you can find me at Roast Ratings on Instagram is where we do a lot of our stuff. You can send a DM over there or email at holly@roastratings.com.
Fantastic Instagram account, by the way. I love it. Everybody should check it out. It's a great Instagram account. And subscribe. I should always say this before. I don't know. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to
do it now.
Other good things. Yeah, and
like this video.
Like this video, subscribe, and then like all the Instagram stuff, and go on Facebook and push the likes and smiley faces and just all good positive vibes, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.